Hyundai, I'm sending you my laundry bill. Car Obsession is proudly supported by Carly and Draggy. Check out the video description to find out the latest discount codes. Last year I tested the new Ford Puma ST, and whilst it had the face of an overexcited frog that would probably fail a drugs test, it proved to be good fun as well as being practical, making it a solid all-round package. It's under threat from South Korea though, with this, the Hyundai Kona N. Now if we are to play top trumps, the N has the ST well and truly beaten. That is thanks to a 2-litre turbocharged 4-pot, meaning this car has got a larger displacement and one extra cylinder. With 280 horsepower, along with 392 Newton meters of torque on tap, this, as you would expect, offers more grunt as well. For context, the Puma ST offers 200 horsepower, along with 320 Newton meters. Both cars send the power through the front wheels, but there is a difference in transmission. The Puma ST is available with a 6-speed manual, whereas the Kona N is only available with an 8-speed DCT. So, the N is more powerful, but what about the 0 to 62s? Well, this will do it in 5.5 seconds, yes 5.5, making it 1.2 seconds faster compared to the ST. This also has a higher top speed, 149, which is 12 more compared to the Ford. This engine is a bit of a firecracker, but it does give the front wheels a lot to handle. Yes, as standard you do get an electronically controlled limited slip differential and Pirelli P0 tyres that were designed specifically for this car, but all you really need to do is tickle the accelerator and you unleash fury. If you bury your foot, you get a sense that each front wheel is fighting each other to see which one can get down the road the fastest. It's all a bit unruly. Let me just actually stamp my foot. Oh, a little bit of torque steer. My word, this is a quick car. Dare I say a bit too quick? Now, as much as this car is well engineered, even in the dry, in relatively warm conditions, if I come to a stop, there's nothing behind me. Now, if I bury my foot, you can see that the front end struggles to really put the power down. So I imagine in the wet, this car would be a bit of a handful, to say the least. As you can tell, the Kona N has got a firecracker under the bonnet, but it has a partner in crime, the 8-speed DCT. As I mentioned, you can't have this car with a manual, and normally that would be a negative for me because I am a die-hard fan of a manual gearbox. But the DCT in this is so good, so slick, so responsive that the lack of clutch pedal rarely enters my mind. Whether you leave the transmission to its own devices or you take control using the paddles, you'll find changes that are seemingly quicker than the human mind can even comprehend. It is a fantastic transmission, it really, really is. Oh. Oh. I don't think I could ever get bored of that noise, although when you're driving in your town centre and you're turning heads, it may not necessarily be for the right reason. You get the impression some people might look at you and think you are a bit of a yobbo. To be fair, they're probably right. As you would expect from any modern performance car, I have a choice of driving modes. In the case of the Kona N, perhaps too many. So down here, I've got a button marked Drive and Traction. Under the drive umbrella of settings, I've got Eco, Normal and Sport. Quite self-explanatory. Hit this button and you get the traction driving modes. All of a sudden I now have snow, deep snow, mud and sand, which I would argue all of these are pointless, bearing in mind this car is front wheel drive, you can't have it in all wheel drive, and this is a performance SUV. Who in their right mind is going to be taking this car off-roading or green laning? Okay, these may be beneficial in the winter, but I don't know, with these Pirelli P0 tyres, I don't quite think so. There's also another driving mode, which I can't remember, I've forgotten, it's slipped my mind. Oh yes, you have the N driving mode. This gives you some idea of what it would be like to find a wasp's nest and to kick it. It's all a bit dramatic, but thankfully, less painful. As you can imagine, this makes the steering heavier, the throttle more responsive, but sadly, it also makes the suspension tauter. Now this road is fairly smooth, but hopefully you can see that I'm moving about in my seat more than I was previously. So could you use the N mode on a day-to-day basis? No, it's too firm. Around Silverstone it might be absolutely fine, but around these kind of roads it's almost comically firm. If I go down here the road isn't quite as good. Oh, there goes my spleen. Hopefully you will see that I have turned myself into a human jelly, just wibbling and wobbling about in my seat. Thankfully though, Hyundai has thought of this, and you have a custom mode. That means you can dial everything up to 11 apart from the ride, and I would thoroughly recommend that you do. So I've got everything set to maximum attack apart from the suspension, which is set to normal. Even in its softest setting, the ride is quite firm. Is it too firm for daily use? No, it might be, so be sure to book a test drive, and ideally pick some poorer road so you can really get an idea of how this chassis performs when it meets a bump in the road. I would say that the Puma ST is definitely more compliant and the easier car to live with day to day when it comes to the ride. And I would also say that the seats in the Puma ST are perhaps a bit more supportive, although these seats are very comfortable and they are supportive. They're also heated and ventilated. The Puma ST can't match that. And the front seats are electronically adjustable. The ride in this is so firm that even when I had the suspension set to its softest setting, I genuinely spilt coffee over me earlier. I was taking a sip and all of a sudden I had Costa going all down my arm. Thanks Hyundai. And I got it on my jeans. Hyundai, I'm sending you my laundry bill. Given just how powerful this car is, it won't be too long before you meet a corner, unless you're on the motorway. But that aside, you'll be pleased to know that this is as good in the corners as it is fast. The chassis is responsive, taut, focused. And I would argue that this is better in the corners than the Puma ST. Mind you, I would say the Puma ST is maybe a bit more playful, a bit more adjustable. This just feels more focused. At each corner you've got Pirelli P0 tyres, which on a nice hot dry day perform very well, but as you can see I've got a bit of drizzle, so they aren't performing quite as well. I've also got an electronically controlled limited slip differential to help keep that massive amount of horsepower in check, and it just about does enough. The steering is responsive, the front end is, very direct. All you need to do is just to flick your wrists and the front end is ready to change direction. A cliche thing to say, but it's true. The brakes also perform well. They are larger compared to the Puma ST, and the front and rear discs are vented, whereas on the Puma ST only the front discs are vented. The feeling through the brake pedal is good. It's got a nice firm response to it. Now, of course, compared to an i30N, this has got a bit more lean because it's taller, so you have to expect that, but it's still pretty flat through the corners. Bearing in mind this is meant to be a fairly practical family SUV, the power and performance this thing has is almost unbelievable. Dare I say it's almost obscene. to have this much power in this kind of car. A Puma ST is far from slow, and I would argue that has enough power to be getting on with, but the Kona N is almost ludicrous with the amount of power and torque it has. Has it perhaps got too much power? Maybe. But my word, it's quite fun to stamp on the accelerator and to simply hang on for dear life. And sometimes you get a sense that's what you need to do in this car. It takes you for a ride, and all you can do is just hang on and hope for the best. Let's bring things back down to earth and talk about something else. Practicality. Now this is where the Kona N loses a few brownie points, because with a boot capacity of 361 litres, it is around 100 less compared to the Ford Puma ST, and of course it doesn't feature the innovative Ford Mega Box either. It's also worth noting that on the Puma ST you can, as an option, have a power tailgate, whereas on the Kona N you can't, so you have to use manual labour, like a peasant. I mean, come on Hyundai, sort it out. To be fair, that's far from a hardship, so I'm only joking. Once you do get the tailgate open, you'll find a nice wide entry into the boot with no load lip, so if you want to load bigger, heavier items, it shouldn't be too much of a faff. You don't get a 12-volt socket, but on the left-hand side, you do get the hook, so you can hang up your shopping bags to stop it rolling about as you hoon down your favourite B road. If you want more space in this car, you can of course fold down the 60/40 rear seats to liberate 1,143 litres, and the rear seats fold pretty flat as well. In case you're wondering, no, you don't get a spare wheel as standard, but you do get a tyre repair kit. Rear space, I'd say, is pretty much on par with the Puma ST. As always, the driver's seat has been set for me. I'm 6'2", so I am of course a taller chap. Let's step inside and hopefully make myself comfortable. Now it is quite dark in here, so the lighting may be a little bit iffy. Hopefully you can see though that the knee room is on the tight side, but leg room is a bit more generous, and I can fit my feet underneath the seat in front of me. For context, this seat has been set to its lowest. Headroom is agreeable, I'd say. Maybe a bit more space compared to the Puma ST, but I would say there's not much in it. Now I'm sure it goes without saying, but fitting 3 adults in the back is going to be quite a squeeze. But if you're more concerned about carrying children, there are of course ISOFIX points. Now, although the rear space may be similar to the Puma ST, I would say the Kona N offers more practicality, because you get a centre armrest with cup holders, which you don't get in the Puma ST, and you also get a USB port, so those in the rear can charge their smart devices whilst on the move. Adding to the practicality, you've got a little cubby hole down here where you can perhaps pop some chewing gum, door bins which can swallow up a bottle which is 750 millilitres, map pockets, and a hook on the right hand side. It is also worth noting that, as standard on the Kona N, the outer rear seats are heated, so on a nice cold day you can get your bum nice and toasty. Unless you're sat in the middle, then you have to go without. Getting comfortable in the front is an absolute doddle, because as standard both front seats are electronically adjustable, so you barely need to lift a finger. Very nice. From a driving perspective, getting a good driving setup is easy, because yes, the seat is electronically adjustable and the steering wheel offers rake and reach adjustments. So it should be very simplistic, very easy to get a driving position which you are happy with. Now, to touch briefly on the practicality in the front, the door bins are of a good size. I can fit in this 750 millilitre bottle with no issues. You've got 2 cup holders in the middle, one of which is larger than the other. So for example, I can fit this bottle in this cup holder, but not the other. Well, I can actually, but just need to encourage it a bit more, manipulate it. You get a wireless phone charging pad as standard, a little bit of storage underneath the armrest, and you get a glove box which offers a fair size. Oh, I forgot to mention, you also get a sunglasses holder. Very handy. Now, for much of this video, I've been explaining how the Ford Puma ST plays second fiddle to the Hyundai Kona N, but there's one important area where the Puma ST wins: the price. Here's voiceover Aaron to tell you more. The Kona N may cost more than a Puma ST, but it's certainly not short on features. There are quite a few, so make yourself comfortable. With a starting price of £35,820, the Kona N has N styling, 19-inch alloys, double exhaust, LED lights, electronically adjustable front seats which are also heated and ventilated, heated steering wheel, climate control, heated outer rear seats, adaptive cruise control, front and rear parking sensors, reversing camera, keyless entry, 10.25-inch touchscreen with Bluetooth, DAB radio, smartphone connectivity and navigation. I haven't stopped though, there's more. Other standard goodies include 8-speaker crowd sound system with subwoofer, 10.25-inch digital instrument cluster, wireless phone charging and head-up display. There's also a decent amount of safety kits such as autonomous emergency braking, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, speed limits warning, lane follow assist and lane keep assist. The Kona N also comes with a 5-year warranty which also extends to track usage as well. Impressive stuff.
Now, whilst I'm on the topic of more sensible things, let's talk fuel economy, which I know is a boring subject, but given the fact that nowadays you have to remortgage your house just to get a full tank of fuel, it is quite an important one. On a combined run, Hyundai states that this should give you around 33 mpg. I think more specifically it's 33.2. Now, I've had this car for almost a week now. I've done 110 miles and I've got an mpg of 19.2. Yeah, needless to say, my right foot has been quite heavy this week. Now, for the sake of fairness, on my drive to my filming location today, which is about 20 miles, mostly on A roads, I got around 27, 28 mpg using the eco mode and a very considerate right foot. When it comes to emissions, this emits 194 grams per kilometre, meaning for the first year of VED, you'll be required to pay £1,422, which may seem like a lot, but of course that is factored in to the cost of the car itself. Speaking of which, this has a starting price of £35,820. I imagine quite a lot of you will be buying this car on finance, so to give you a representative example, over the course of 4 years, using a deposit which is £5,373, an odd amount I know, but that's on the Hyundai website, you're looking at payments of £480, or roughly speaking, £480 per month. When it comes to insurance groups, this is insurance group 27. For context, the Puma ST is 22. When it comes to refinement, I'm sure it will come as very little surprise that the Kona N is rather noisy, particularly when you've got those 19-inch alloys which have got Pirelli P0s, which do create a fair amount of tyre noise. At 70 miles per hour, using my sound meter, I recorded around 73 decibels. I didn't record the Puma ST when I had it, but I would bet you a pound to a penny the Puma ST is the quieter car. When it comes to visibility, yeah, it's pretty good. The A-pillars aren't too thick. The door mirrors are of a good size, and as standard, I've got blind spot monitoring. The rear window isn't the deepest. It is quite shallow, but in case you have any difficulties when parking, you've got front and rear parking sensors, as well as a reversing camera. This car is plenty fast, and it's also plenty fun. And as much as I do like the Kona N, day to day, if I'm going to be honest, I think I'd rather live with the Ford Puma ST. It's more comfortable, it's got a bigger boot, it's not quite as brutal as the Kona N, but it still offers plenty of power. And it offers a manual gearbox. As much as I do really enjoy this DCT, as I said earlier, I am a die-hard fan of a manual gearbox. The Puma ST, I would argue, is also a bit more playful. Would I say it has more character? It's difficult. Both of these cars have got massive characters, bearing in mind they are rather small cars, but they've got different types of characters. The Puma ST is a bit cheeky, it's a bit of a lad, a bit of an Essex lad, a bit of a cheeky chappy, whereas this is a bit more serious, but it's just brutal. The Hyundai Kona N is proof that a small SUV doesn't have to be as dull as dishwater when it comes to driving, and the performance this thing offers is almost obscene. I mean, 5.5 seconds to 62 miles per hour, incredible. As a demonstration for how potent you can make a small SUV, the Kona N certainly excels. As much as I do like this car, and in some ways it is more entertaining compared to a Puma ST, I would argue the Ford is the better choice. That is because the Puma ST will be the easier car to live with day to day, thanks to a bigger boot and a more compliant ride. The Puma ST is cheaper as well, and if you want more driver engagement, that comes with a third pedal as well. The Kona N though, it is an absolute beast, but maybe not for the faint-hearted. Thank you so much for watching this video. I do hope you have enjoyed it. A big thank you to Hyundai UK for loaning me this car. If you have enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.